find one after you graduated college. The government helped you with your expenses until you found a job and made sure you found a job worthy of your qualifications. And if that meant the Libyan government had to send you into service in another allied country to apply your expertise that was gained through the free public education system in Libya, then that is what the government did. As far as education is concerned, Libya went from one of the least literate countries on the continent to the most literate country on the continent and the highest level of education for women in the country. And that's just the policies that the government under Muammar Gaddafi um, implemented for the people, direct support for the people. There's also the infrastructure, the building of the water pipeline that would have revolutionized society in Libya, and
They,
also
they
his
turned the desert
declaration.
green. They turned the desert green.
Absolutely. So the lie from the apartheid state that they made the desert bloom in Palestine, yeah, that's a lie. Libya actually did make the desert bloom. And of course, there was Muammar Gaddafi's declaration that not only is he African, not only was he African, but Libyans obviously African, and he was a Pan-Africanist. And that's where the plans to move to the a one Africa currency backed by African gold comes from. So of course he had to, sitting on all that oil, Sly, of course he had to go. Of course he had to go. And I think we can surmise that because his son um, enjoyed the support of his father's supporters, that his growing popularity, his son's growing popularity, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, that's his name, he was growing in popularity in Libya. So, of course, the US government not wanting to see a return of Gaddafi era policies in Libya, they had to get rid of him too. That's my assessment of the situation with no details about any deeper than that. I'm just looking at the history and that's what I think this is. I could be wrong, but that's what this looks like to me.
Well, I did the same thing. I looked at the history and I came to the same, what do you say, surmise that that's what happened. Because he was growing uh, quickly in popularity. And oh my goodness. So what happened was the same lies came out. Oh, the father, Gaddafi, he's a dictator. He's killing his own people. He's, the same. They say it over and over and over again. Oh, who didn't ICE just kill some people here? Oh, he's killing his own, their own
Right.
people. So they always use the same old thing, dictator. Although, what does that mean? The same thing with uh, Maduro. Even though Maduro was elected, I hear people on this station talking
Hmm.
about, oh, he's a dictator.
All the
Yeah,
time.
so it's just the same old propaganda going on. And so I would agree with you, and I'm glad I was able to talk to you about this. Is that it looks like, because the U.S. is all over the place with their CIA,
Hmm.
and I guess it would not be that difficult for them to murder young Gaddafi.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, the practice of imperialist hegemony through coups and assassinations and NED, CIA, alphabet agency interference in other countries that are supposed to be sovereign, supposed to be protected by international law and all of that kind of stuff. I hope people are seeing clearly at this time, particularly through this regime, but I hope people are seeing the connections to existing policies that basically lays the idea of international law and a so-called rules-based order in the world in relation to the United States and its thuggery and gangsterism don't exist. Never, ever have.
With that, I want to play a Shahid Bolson, and I want you to comment on this short clip by Shahid Bolson. And I want you to be sure to talk about the things you've been working on,
Mm.
analyzing the current situation. But here's a short piece by Shahid Bolson, which I play often because he's right on point. And then I want you to comment on that, and we'll keep moving forward.
Hmm.
Every generation in the West always says that they're different. They always say that they've changed, that they're not like their forefathers. But they do all the same things all over again every time. There's no change. They've never changed. Maybe you're a Westerner now, and you're horrified by the things that your society did in the past. But you're doing the same things now and it doesn't horrify you. You know, you can see all those old pictures of people having picnics with their families in the American South, having sandwiches under the swinging bodies of black people who they just lynched. Maybe you see those pictures, this generation, you see those pictures and you're bewildered at how human beings could be so brutal. But right now, tonight, you're sitting in front of the television watching CNN and eating pizza, watching a genocide take place in Gaza. Well, you're no better than the generations before you. You're just the same. And your great-grandchildren are going to look back on your support for Israel just the same way that you look back on pictures of lynchings and those postcards of black babies being eaten by alligators in front of tourists.
Wow. Go ahead. Any comments on that?
I mean, what else do I need to say? Because he said it all, and his point about this generation of Americans being no different from their ancestors. I mean, the history bears that out. On my show today, on By Any Means Necessary on WPFW at 5 p.m., because it's Black History Month, that's all I'm going to talk about. The history of what got us here, specifically the foundational ideology of racist violence in this country that has been carried out not just against us, but also against immigrants, non-European immigrants. This violence that we're seeing unleashed by, and I think I made the same mistake that a lot of people made when this new iteration of ICE raids was unleashed on the streets in so many cities, not just Minneapolis. This is going on in at least 7 or 8 other cities across the country. Right? This is not just Minneapolis, but this is all the corporate media is focusing on for political reasons. But this iteration of ICE raids, I made the same mistake that a lot of people did, thinking that these new quote unquote untrained agents that were just hired, because they did hire like 12, 15,000 additional deputized race warriors, because that's what they are.
Race warriors.
Uh, who,
Okay, I
who
like that.
members of the Proud Boy, because they
That's
intentionally
true.
recruited from those communities and organizations. They absolutely did. But when we look at the crimes, the violations of human and civil and allegedly legal rights, the murders of Keith Porter Jr., of the 30 plus people who died in ICE custody last year, of the murders of Renee Good, the murders and the murder of Alex Pretty, all of the 35, 36 people murdered by ICE since last year, we find, particularly in the case of, I think, Porter, Good, and Pretty, the agents, at least in the case of Pretty and Good, the agents who killed those people were 10 and 8 year veterans of Customs and Border Patrol. They were not these new race warrior recruits. This is not a training issue that we're seeing with this violence in the streets from ICE and CBP and DHS. Please let's remember that ICE is not a standalone agency. It is a part of the Department of Homeland Security. So the idea that you're just going to get rid of ICE and fix all this, you don't know anything about Customs and Border Patrol that has a long history, documented history of brutalization of people in detention, to the point that at least 2 CBP agents have been arrested on and off duty for those crimes for decades. This is documented. So we are talking about what we are seeing in the streets now in regard to these ICE raids, not a new escalation of wrong that is being carried out by Donald Trump. What we're seeing is the publicizing of the brutality that has always been going on, carried out against our communities, working class and poor Black communities, and immigrant communities, and inside prisons and detention centers. So, this behind closed doors violence and repression that they report on, like CBP has reports about these abuses and arrests. They just don't tell you. I mean, because they're documented. These people are arrested, and some of them are charged, and some of them have lost their jobs. So they know about the abuses and the violence and the murders, and they don't care, and they have never cared. The what is different now is that they're doing it in the middle of the street. And
Mm.
now that they're unleashing it on white people who have the nerve to get in the way. And in the same way, this kind of violence that had been going on behind closed doors of US carceral state institutions and in our occupied neighborhoods, this is the same kind of violence that drives people from their home countries. When the United States government decides, like they just did in Libya, like they did in Venezuela, like they're doing in Cuba, like they want to do to China, like they're trying to do to Iran, like they did in Syria, when the US government decides, like they're helping Israel do in Palestine, when the US government decides we don't like your leader because that leader is going to protect the resources in that country from us being able to profit off of them, we
Mm.
have to get rid of that leader. And in that process, the US government unleashes the same violence that we are seeing on the streets of Minneapolis, New Orleans, Portland, Los Angeles, somewhere in Maine, I think, today. These things are not disconnected at all because the same entity is behind all of it.
Wow. Um, that's Jackie Lukeman. Uh, I see people are calling in. We'll take calls later in the program, but if you want to call in now, you may. The number to call in is 818 985 5735. Hit option 1. 818 985 5735. Option 1. Did you get that? 818 985 5735. Hit option 1. And you can call and talk with Sister Jackie Lukeman, who is here sharing her expertise. I love her analysis. She's one of the few people. But before I talk about that, I want to go to a clip. Speaking of ICE, here's a clip that somebody sent to me. I guess it'll be Bluetooth, yeah. Bluetooth. Okay, here we go. And then you can comment on this.
Mhm.
Black people, we need to talk about something urgent. We're walking into a perfect ice storm, and I'm not sure we're paying attention. Here's what's happening right now and why it matters to you. Two things just collided. First, the Supreme Court ruled that ICE can conduct warrantless arrests and searches while looking for undocumented immigrants, basically giving them permission to racially profile with zero accountability. And you may be thinking, that's not about us, they targeting Latinos. But here's part two. On February 3rd, temporary protective status ends for 350,000 Haitian immigrants. They are now deportation targets. And here's the thing, Haitians are Black Americans. Same skin, same accent in many cases. Can you see where this is going? Here's the equation. ICE can racially profile, plus they're hunting Black immigrants who look just like us, equals all Black people are now more vulnerable. And before you say, but I'm a citizen, over the past year, we've seen multiple cases of actual U.S. citizens being detained by ICE for days and weeks at a time. Documentation did not save them. This isn't theoretical. So here's what we do. Number one, if ICE approaches you, stay calm, comply, and show ID. I know it's unjust, it's enraging, we shouldn't have to do it, but this is about survival. just like the talk all of our parents gave us about surviving police encounters when we were young. Two, organize now. Connect with neighbors, especially in areas where there's a high population of Haitian immigrants like Massachusetts and Florida and New York. Create text chains to alert each other when ICE is spotted. Three, get involved locally and register to vote. And I know some of you are thinking violence is the answer. I feel you. The anger is righteous. But hear me, lone wolves get eliminated. If you're serious about any kind of resistance, it requires coordination, strategy, and numbers. Don't sacrifice yourself for nothing. We need you alive and connected. Not to mention, this is happening during Black History Month. The irony is insane, but the danger is real. Be vigilant, stay woke, stay alive. Our ancestors overcame worse with less. We can do this, but we got to do it together because we are.
Okay, so I played that because at the beginning of this madness, so many black people say, "Oh, yeah, that don't affect me. That's them." But there's been war against black folks uh, forever. But you want to comment on that, Jay?
I do. And I'm I really wish we would leave the discourse on violence and nonviolence in regard to our response alone.
Mm-hmm.
Because that really is a continuation of this moral suasion foolishness that we can appeal to the morality of our enemy. We've been fighting these people for 500 years. And they have fought back against every way that we have simply tried to assert our humanity and demand the rights that they claimed we had under their quote unquote laws, but we get lynched, we get denied access to equal opportunity, we get mass incarcerated, we get ideologically stereotyped and denigrated and lied about anyway, and that has not stopped. It has not mattered how we have responded to their violence. So I really want people in this moment to stop with the discourse about be nonviolent. You are directing your demands for nonviolence at the wrong party.
Mm.
The people never resort. We're never like, yeah, let's just go out there and get a bunch of guns and shoot up No, we weren't the ones who stormed the Capitol. You don't have to tell us to be nonviolent. We are defending our lives, our humanity, our dignity, and our alleged rights. We are defending those things, ourselves and our families, from the violence of the state. For me, this discourse toward people who are oppressed about how we need to be nonviolent, it is a misdirection of energy because that demand needs to be directed at the state, not at the victims of state violence. And honestly, if we know our history and all of the many ways we have tried to negotiate with, talk to, protest peacefully, that this evening on my show, I'm going to talk about the silent march that black people carried out in 1917 or 1918, literally a silent protest against lynching. Why did black folks back then think that they needed to do a silent protest? Because white people were telling them the same thing then. Oh,
Mm.
you don't like being lynched? Well, maybe if you weren't violent when you protested, maybe if you protest non-violently. So the discussion was never toward the people who were carrying out lynchings because those people were never held accountable. Never. The conversation about nonviolence has always been directed at the targets of white supremacist state violence directed toward us. So it's 2026, y'all. And yes, it's Black History Month. Stop telling Black people fighting for our lives and our rights that we need to be nonviolent. Direct that to the state. That is where the violence is coming from. And
And
for me, his number two should have been number one. Organization is how we survive and get out of this, because organization is how our ancestors survived. It wasn't just staying alive. Organization is how they survived, not confronting this system alone, relying on communalism and networks and supporting each other, because we were literally all we had. Right? So he, for me, half of the message is right. Yes, we do need to organize. But here's the other part of this slide that we're not talking about. We talk about we'll survive this. What is this society going to be on the other side of this? Right? And this is not a conversation that maybe we should have in public, because I don't think we should, because we don't need to let the enemy know everything that we're doing. But we have to be asking ourselves in these organizing circles, what do we want society to be on the other side of this? We have to ask these questions, Sly. We cannot just organize to survive this moment of ICE raids and Trump. We have to organize for what we want this society to be when all of this is gone, because I guarantee you the right wing has already organized to build what they want. That is what this is.
mm,
This is them laying the foundation for what they want this society to be when they finally completely isolate this country from the rest of the world, which is what they're doing. And then they will unleash their final solution. So we need to organize beyond just getting rid of Trump, just stopping ICE. We need to organize for what we want this country to be when this empire finally does collapse.
true that. And I do like what the brother said when he talked about, if you want to do insurrection. He said he gave the lone wolf
Hmm.
analogy. He said, well, if you want, don't do that. Organize into a larger unit or militia to be effective. So that I haven't heard. Anyway, mostly people say, "Oh, nonviolence," and I agree with you.
Hmm.
If you're going to talk about nonviolence, then I put it towards the ones doing all the violence,
Hmm.
and not the ones that are not. 818-985-5735. There's a couple people on the line. You can call in, and we'll take calls later on in the program. Jackie, you're the only person, one of the few people I know, and I was so proud of you, who said that during October 7th, because everybody goes back to October 7th.
Hmm.
Yeah, but how about October 7th? And you said, well, people who are oppressed have the right to resist.
Hmm.
So you were the only, people like, oh, they're not supposed to do it, which is almost like this whole nonviolent thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I guess you maintain that, and we have to get organized and figure out a way to fight back.
Hmm. Yeah. I
And
mean, if you are what a lot of this nonviolent discourse basically tells oppressed people is to resist your oppression politely. It doesn't matter how violent and brutal and inhumane and illogical and racist and genocidal the oppressors and the occupy. There, there is a foreign entity occupying your home. And I could be talking about Southeast DC, the Bronx, or Gaza, or Sudan. Do you understand? It did occupation is occupation and oppression is oppression. So we're all in varying degrees of the same kind of oppressive relationship with the state, being occupied in some way by a foreign, aggressive, more powerful in some way force that controls our movement, controls our access to institutions, that violently criminalizes everything we do. How is that? Doesn't that sound like Southeast DC and some parts of Oakland and Minneapolis? Remember the situation in Ferguson with the using things like jaywalking tickets to criminalize black people and get them into the court system paying these fines that they can never pay, and that is how they lock black people up in basically debtors jail, but that's also how they supplanted their budget. How is that different from a checkpoint system? If you can't jaywalk in Ferguson, Missouri without going the threat of going to jail, how is that different from a checkpoint system in Gaza where it takes you hours to just get from one area of your own country to another? Our young black kids here in DC couldn't even celebrate Halloween by hanging out in a park without the National Guard swarming in and violently running them off and arresting some of them. Occupation is occupation is occupation. But these folks who insist on, oh, I know this is unfair and I know this is illegal and I know it's inhumane and it's racist and it's violent, but protest peacefully. What you're telling me is that you want me to be polite in asking nicely that our oppressors stop doing these things. That's what they mean when they go back to October 7th. Oh, I know Israel is stealing their land. I know it's an apartheid system. I know they put up a wall. I know they control their food and their water and their energy. I know they're racist and the jokes they make about putting the Palestinians on a diet. That is what they call their control, literally, of the amount of food they allow into Gaza to keep people under control by just barely giving them enough food to keep them alive. They call that putting them on a diet. And the response from people is, oh, October 7th was a tragedy, it was an atrocity. And then there are the atrocity lies. Oh, Hamas raped people and they put babies in ovens. Those lies have been debunked. But people still go back to, the Palestinians shouldn't have done October 7th, so the prisoners shouldn't have broken out of the prison. The POWs should not have escaped from the concentration camp. That's what they're telling people. And I don't have any more patience for those arguments because they're illogical. They are ahistorical. They are not grounded in reality. And they are incredibly insulting to the people who are faced with two choices, Sly: fight or die. That's it.
Mm.
And instead of showing solidarity with the people who have nothing, because it's all been stolen from them, even their land. What people are telling people in that situation is be nicer to your occupier, and maybe they will let their boot up off your neck a little bit. And then the rest of us can go back to living our lives without hearing you people whine about how badly you're being treated. That's what this really is.
Ooh, 818-985-5735. We'll get to your call in a little bit. Hit option 2, 818-985-5735. We're talking to Jackie Lukeman, who's on fire, as usual. So you were talking about at the top of the show how the connection between international and national affairs was connected. Could you expound on that a little more, please?
Yeah, at the Black Alliance for Peace, the thing that we do that I really, really do love is that we do not just declare that we are internationalists. We are. We're Pan-Africanists, we're internationalists, we're anti-imperialists, we are anti-capitalist. But we don't just declare that. We look at the issues that we are facing in this country and we connect them to imperialism and policies of US foreign policy that produces the same results over there, wherever there is, and over here. So when we're talking about domestic issues, like one of the domestic issues that is connected to all of this is the World Cup and the Olympics coming. Now the World Cup is supposed to be played in several US cities. I sadly do not follow the actual football because I'm still decolonizing my my sports. So, but I understand that globally football, not soccer, football with the U is an incredibly important and primary cultural. It's not just a sport, it is a cultural thing. I understand this. We don't get that in this country, but the World Cup is a big huge deal. So there have been calls to boycott the World Cup because of Israel's involvement, and also now because of the UAE's involvement. Um, but the Black Alliance for Peace, through its North South Project for People's Centered Human Rights, began a campaign to move the World Cup from the United States and boycott the World Cup last year. So we began that campaign and that petition to for the IOC and FIFA to ban the United States and Israel from all competition and to move the World Cup from the United States. And look at what has happened, Sly. A few months later, with the converging global issues of repression and violence, and now with the revelations in the Epstein files, you can't ignore the impact of Zionism in repressive governments, and I mean repressive Western governments all over the world. Now everybody understands, oh, wait, Zionism is a problem. Israel as an entity with their influence in other governments, they are very deeply implicated in all of our oppression. So now more people are understanding, oh, having the World Cup here is a bad idea. We should not be rewarding Israel. We should not be normalizing their participation in anything, nor should we be normalizing US participation in Israel. And now the move has gotten so, has advanced so much that people are returning their tickets
Mm.
and to the World Cup. And now there are serious talks from world leaders about not attending the World Cup. So that's one concrete example of how the Black Alliance for Peace connects domestic issues with international issues. Because why would we celebrate our international brothers and sisters of color from non-European countries? Why would we want them to come to this country when ICE is marauding around, racially profiling people to deport them
Okay.
under cover of legality from the Supreme Court? No, we are asking, but don't come here. It is not safe here for you, because it's not safe here for us. And because we are internationalists and we understand that the reason some of the diaspora of the global south is in this country is because, as I said before, of the same repression that is carried out against working class and poor, black and brown and indigenous people in this country. It's been carried out against working class and poor peasant people in other countries. And they're forced to come here and then they're punished for what this government created. So that's one example of how we not only connect the policy, but we direct our action in response to these policies to connect international and domestic issues.
So basically, a boycott of the World Cup
That's right.
here in America, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're invading everybody all over the world. It's totally out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have Harold. Is he up first? Harold from Santa Barbara. He's been waiting a while.
Mm-hmm.
You're on KPFK. Welcome to Cut to the Chase with Jackie Lukman.
Wow, I haven't heard welcome in a while, especially where I'm at right now in Redlands, California. My goodness, this young woman that's speaking, oh boy, you warm my heart. But my blood is still as cold as ICE. But anyway, you were right. This has been planned. The Olympics, the World Cup. I mean, how can one city have the Olympics 3 times and then the World Cup and now the Super Bowl? Oh my goodness. In terms of violence, you're right again. It's directed at the wrong people. We aren't going around killing people. We didn't invade Washington, D.C., but be aware, right now as I'm talking to you, in Redlands, there are 7 CIA agents out my door. I tried to get water. I couldn't get water. I tried to get food. I couldn't get food. So they designed a program called Instacart. Now, when I use Instacart, they follow everything I do. For example, I ordered items from Walmart. Now, my security was at that Walmart. Instacart said, oh, none of this was available. It wasn't true. So they are treating us like Palestinians. But please understand, I am not preaching violence. I'm just trying to stay alive.
Jackie, you're shaking your head. Go ahead and comment on what he just commented.
Yeah, Harold, thank you so much. And I feel, I feel the depth of the coldness of your blood and the fire in your bones. I hear it. Um, and that's really how I feel pretty much all the time. Now, I just had a doctor's appointment yesterday. My blood pressure is too doggone high. And look, stress, this is what stress does to you. Um, but you know, I want to encourage people. I don't I know that I very often come off like I'm telling people, look, just go out there and do whatever. No, no, no. We do have to be smart. We do have to be organized. We have to be strategic and intentional. But here's the wonderful thing about organization that I discovered. It is not something that I knew. Organization is also critical for the mental health and the social stability of people like us who actually do care about humanity, right? As angry as we are, and we all want to do something. And no, we should not go out there and do individual actions because, yeah, yes, that will get us in trouble. But we're in trouble anyway. So we have to do something. So what do we do? How do we survive this? We survive it through organizing with our neighbors, with our communities, with our faith communities, with our co-workers who are also of like mind. We survive this together. We cannot survive this individually. Because see, they can pick us off very easily individually. We know this. Organizing in serious organizations puts you in proximity to other people who are like-minded. And that helps you not feel like you are losing your mind because we are surrounded by people, Sly, who do not care.
True that.
That is just the truth. And I think for a lot of people like us, that is a part of this present moment that is probably just as uncomfortable and terrifying as what is being done by not just this particular regime, but by the courts that they're supposed to be the checks and balances, right? So we are dealing with all of this. We're dealing with the realization for people who didn't pay attention to the history and didn't listen to us before. They're dealing with the realization that everything they thought they believed about this country being fair, democratic, checks and balances, equal, they realize it's a lie. And they can't deal with that. And they're dealing with that while they're watching this violence being carried out on the streets in this city, as they're watching the violence being carried out by the same government in all these other countries. And then they're also surrounded by people who are just not as concerned about any of it as they have become. Even worse, they're surrounded by people who support all of it.
Mm.
That I understand that is causing a lot of people who are coming to this realization that all of this has been a lie. I know that is causing a lot of mental anguish and isolation. Organization is a wonderful thing for people like us so that we can fight these battles. And it is not a one-day battle. It's not a one demonstration battle. This is a protracted struggle that has gone on for 500 years, and it's going to go on until the system is defeated. But that is how we survive. And not just survive, being around like minded people who believe that something better is possible is how we get to the something better. It is the only way we get to the something better. We have to believe that there is something better than this, that we can do better than this. Because if we don't, we will do exactly what we're being told to do. Endure your oppression politely, and
And that's what
maybe
they've
it won't
taught
be
us.
so bad.
That's what they brainwashed us into. This is the best thing you ever, best
Mm,
place. I was talking
mm-hmm.
to somebody and I said, yeah, I might go, go overseas somewhere. Oh, are you kidding? This is the best place. This is the best. I said, have you been anywhere else? No,
Right,
no,
right,
no. Mm.
right. And I can definitely say, having been to the places where most people believe are evil communist fascist dictatorships, authoritarian, people are just thrown in jail for no reason, and you can't protest the government, and you can't own property, and you can't own a business. All of it is a lie. All of it is a lie, folks. I've been to Cuba, I've been to Venezuela, I've been to China. I am going to Nicaragua. All of it is a lie. I'm going to the continent later this year. I think
Where
I'm
you
going to
going?
Ghana.
Ghana? Where else?
We may be trying to get to the AES. We'll see. We'll see if we can pull that off. But those are the plans for this. We've been to these places. We work with organizations and individuals and civil society groups in these countries. The work that we do around Venezuela, around Cuba, around Palestine, around Sudan and Congo, we aren't just making statements and having actions about countries and situations that we are not aware of. Many of us have been there,
Yes.
and we also work with people who are there.
Mm.
So we're not speaking on behalf of other people on things that we wish were a certain way. No, we've seen for ourselves that what we've been told about these countries and these governments and these people by this government are lies. And we work with people in these countries who don't hate Americans. They do not. They feel sorry for us. A lot of it, they feel very sorry for us because they do not understand how we don't understand what this government is not just doing to them, but they also see what this government is doing to us. And they don't understand why we are not fighting the way they fought
Mm.
this government to kick them out of their countries and achieve their freedom and sovereignty from imperialism. So, organization is the answer. It really is the answer.
I think my first visit to Cuba, when I came back, I had a revelation. And that is, why does the United States hate Cuba? And
Mm,
basically, they don't want, because Cuba is a wonderful society,
hmm.
free health care for everybody. They don't want that transported here
Right.
because they lose. It's all about the money here. It's
Hmm.
all about capital, capital, capital. And if you have that type of society, they lose. So I said, oh, it's not about they're bad, but they try to make you think they're bad. They're dictators. They're doing this. So it's all about that. Wow.
Hmm.
So I want to get into Iran and that, but first let's see what we have a caller on line 2, Sia from Los Angeles. Welcome, Sia, to Cut to the Chase. You're talking with Jackie Lukeman.
Wow, I am honored to be here. Hello.
Hello.
Hey.
You, can you guys hear me properly? I'm on the road.
We can hear you. Stay close to your phone.
Awesome. I just wanted to say thank you so much to the speakers for bringing up these incredibly important topics. I have always, you know, considered why when we're protesting, our lives being taken away, we always say, "Oh, we must do it peacefully. We must do it peacefully." I mean, it is. I feel like we should know by now that is a ploy. That is a design to keep people like under mobilized, under alarmed.
That's
You
what they
know, it's,
want. Yes. Go ahead.
excuse me, sir?
I said that's what they want.
Yeah,
Yes. Go ahead. You're on the roll. Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And this is also the same thing. I know we keep saying we've been fighting this fight for like 500 years through the transatlantic slave trade, right? But it's something that I have speculated on numerous times about how this has been going on for thousands and thousands of years, especially with Israel through the implementation of religion. Okay, Islam and Christianity both came through Judaism, and they were implemented through Africa as ways to keep us subservient, ways to say don't do anything about your plight, just pray to a God to save you, and you can get your heaven after you die, and then we will take your heaven right now on earth.
True that.
You
Yeah.
know, and we forget that the trans-Saharan slavery is still also part of all the parts. Israel and UAE are still committing atrocities in Africa. Yeah, and I say these things because I'm African. I'm from the continent, and I've been in America for a while now. But I see, and I was born in the Civil War, so I see how all these things merge together. You know, how the Blood Diamonds War went along for 10 years till after they say, okay, we've made them afraid to fight back now. We've made them weak enough that no one will ever dare. We've made them suffer enough that they'll think of that suffering and not want to repeat that again, so they'll never dare fight back again. You know, and I think of that all the time about how this continues to happen, even with the slave trade, and about how they essentially try to put fear in us to not mobilize, and even how COVID was one of those ways that we can't even get together because we fear each other. We can't get together. And I just appreciate y'all for speaking truth to power in that way. I mean, there's so much we can talk about, hours and hours of it, but there's much more we need to do. There's been enough talking, but I appreciate you just like
Sister,
encouraging
where are
people
you
to do
from?
more.
What country were you born in? You said you're from the continent.
You know, even right now, I fear to even say it out loud because right now we're on the visa ban list. But I'm
Got
from
you. I
Sierra
got you.
Leone. You know,
Respect. Respect. All right. Thank you so
yeah.
much. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's crazy out here. It's
Yeah.
totally crazy. Let's jump into. We have another caller, but we'll get to you in a minute, John.
Hmm.
Iran. Are these folks going to start another war?
They're going to try to. It's not going to go the way they think. Listen, when we look at the foreign policy of the United States, particularly in the so-called, I hate using that phrase, in the Near East, or the North Africa region. I will call it anything else but what the U.S. and the CIA call that region.
I think they call it
Uh,
Western Asia. West Asia.
Middle East, yeah, because
Yeah,
there's no
some people
such
call it
thing as
West
the
Asia.
Middle East. That was literally created by the CIA, that phrase.
Mm.
Um, but Iran is a problem for the United States because Iran is developing its nuclear program for civilian energy use. But of course, the United States doesn't want Iran to have any nuclear capabilities at all. And by the United States, I actually mean Israel, because that's what that Iran is a stalwart supporter of Palestinian resistance. Period.
Mm.
That is the main reason Iran has to go, according to the United States and Israel. That's why Israel and the United States attacked Syria so much and had to get rid of Bashir al-Assad, regardless of whatever contradictions he may have had, right? Because every government has contradictions, but sovereignty and self-determination mean that if the people in that country have a problem with their government and with their leader, it is their responsibility and theirs alone to deal with whatever problems they have with their leader and their government, right? So Iran not developing nuclear weapons to bomb the United States. They are not. Iran was a signatory of the JPCOA, the Joint Non-Proliferation Treaty against Nuclear Weapons. And remember, the first Trump administration pulled out and accused Iran of dirty dealing. The independent investigators
And
or
we could
observers
make a
said
better
no.
deal than Obama and all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
and the independent observer said no, Iran was adhering to the agreements. It's the United States that pulled out. Iran has a much more progressive society than people want to believe. Women are highly educated in Iran. Most of the engineers, the engineering students in Iran are women. So, this idea that the United States needs to save Iranian women from the repressive, theocratic, authoritarian regime, it's a lie. It's a lie. It's all this hatred of Islam that compels white Christian nationalist men in this country and their partners, white Christian nationalist women, to really want to unveil Iranian women and prop them up in the image of white American femininity, which if that is what individual people want, then that's what they should do. But if that's not what they want, leave them alone. And what business is it of yours? Right? Everything that is said about Iran by this government is not true. The
Just hold
Iranian people don't hate the US people. Iran does not want to destroy the United States. People want the United States government to leave them
them
alone.
alone.
That is what people want. That's it. That is all they want.
True that.
And if the United States government would stop supporting its baby brother and incubator project, Israel, and using them against every other country in that region to maintain and expand US control and influence in those countries in that region. That's the other reason Iran has to go. If the United States would stop doing, everything would be fine.
Yeah.
People would be fine.
Jackie, let's do this. We got a couple of callers.
Mhm.
Callers, make it quick because we're really running out of time fast. So, 20-second comment or question. John,
Never enough time.
Chino, California.
Jackie, what about Colombia, who has a black female vice president? I heard you talking about visiting other nations. What do you think of Colombia?
I have been to Colombia a few times. I have good comrades in Colombia who actually work pretty closely. We work closely with the Petro and Marquez governments. Colombia, just like every other country, is contradictions abound, but the progressive forces and the people are ever struggling in Colombia, and that struggle is very deep, and it's definitely something we should learn about. We should definitely keep looking, keep watching the Colombian government.
Let's get this last caller in, Stan from East LA, and then we'll sign out.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Yesterday I called the Hartman show. He cut me off with what I said.
Okay,
you
have to talk quick. We might have to cut you off, so you got like 30 seconds.
The way to organize is go straight to your Constitution, go straight to the 13th Amendment, and take out the part that says, except for servitude for crimes where you found guilty. Just take it out. And Tom Hartman said, no, you have to go to a convention. You have to, If enough people in this state, in this country, organize and just redact that thing, take it out,
Gotcha.
we have changed the Constitution.
Gotcha.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your organization. Jackie, we get like 30 seconds. Take us out. What happened? I don't hear Jackie. Okay.
No, sorry. Passing laws in this country has never stopped the ruling class or their supporters from violating our rights. So no, just changing the Constitution is not going to fix this. The entire system has to go.
Thank you. That's Jackie Lukeman, y'all. She's with the Black Alliance for Peace, and hopefully she'll come back and talk to us again. Thanks, Jackie.
Anytime. Thank you.